Hey, boys and girls, it's been a minute. And I'm going to go over a lot of that probably in a different video, not so much this one. Life's just been crazy. You know how it is. And in the background of things, I've gotten into some other things that aren't cars or RCs, and that's what we're going to do today. So, I got into mopeds, or scooters, whatever you want to call them, while I've been away. Bought this one brand new. This is a 2024 Honda Ruckus. It's got a little bit done to it that I've done. All of it off video, obviously. Lowered seat frame. Intake, there's an exhaust you can't see. I put a mount on it that lowered the taillight and everything. Other than that, and then it's got a new variator. Rollers adjusted for my weight. It's got an NCY CDI box to delete the rev limiter and everything. Put a tack on it. Overall, this thing was really fun, and it prompted me to build something myself. This is a 2002 Honda Metro, or Metropolitan, that's been back half with a Honda Ruckus. I think that's an 07 Honda Ruckus. So it's a Honda Metruck. The whole front half of the bike is more or less stock, other than I wrapped it and all that. So that's got a cool look to it. Then again, it's got intake exhaust, a bunch of variator mods, CDI box, all that fun stuff. This thing will do about 50 mile an hour with me on it. This one, due to wind resistance and tires not being all that great stock, will do about 45-ish with me on it. And then this, while it kind of looks like a bike, it's a scooter that thinks it's a bike. This is a Honda Navy, however you want to pronounce it. I've heard most people pronounce it Navi. It's got some work done to it as well. I've changed out the variator rollers and the exhausts, and it's been lowered a lot, and I did the fender delete. I've repainted it, put 12-inch tires on it front and rear, because it used to come with a 10 in the rear and a 12 in the front. Well, I made them match, all that fun stuff. Rejetted the carb. All three of these have actually had that done, and yeah, they've been a lot of fun to work on, and it's kind of been a thing where now I keep looking on Craigslist to find things cheap, because, you know, well, now I've started it, now I got to keep going, because I can't seem to ever just stop at one. We know that because cars and RCs. And that led to me purchasing another bike that was basically a Honda Grom knockoff, but it rode more like this, because it had a 150cc GY6 scooter engine on it. So it was kind of a knockoff of the Honda Navi, but it had more in common with the Grom. So I don't know, however you want to look at it. Which I picked that up for $500. Messed with it a little bit. Like, it needed the battery changed, and what else was it? Something else I did to it. Overall, nice little bike. Wasn't for me. It sat way too tall for me, because I'm short. And I ended up trading it for this. This being a 2021 icebear maddog. I think this is a Gen 4, 50cc. Not a 150. I would have rather had a 150, but it's whatever. It's a 50cc GY6. And when I got it from the guy, it wouldn't start. The battery was pretty much dead, which is why I got the box open. And when we were trying to start it there with him, he just said he wasn't sure why, but it wouldn't pick up fuel. He told me he thought it needed a new fuel pump put on it. And to a degree, that wasn't a lie. He was right. It needed a new fuel pump put on it, because for some reason, there was no fuel pump on it at all. Even though he told me it was running like a month or so before that, and it had just been setting. there was no fuel pump on it at all. Now, he gave me a box that had 3 fuel pumps in it, but none of them were on the bike. And for any of you that know anything about these, they come with kind of a crappy little fuel pump. They come with these little vacuum fuel pumps. This one's a Mikuni. This is actually a fairly good pump for what it is. The problem with these are they run off a vacuum. Well, it's a 50cc. So to do even the speed limit, you have it wrapped out all the time, which basically means you're at the top end where this thing's barely getting any vacuum to work. So it likes to starve them on the top end, which is no good because all you're going to do by starving out a air-cooled motor is make it run lean, make it run hot. That don't work. That's a problem. So we're going to remedy that along with actually getting it fixed. You can see where I started to do that. And we'll go into why that didn't work. And I'll show you what I'm going to do. So while dealing with the whole fuel pump issue and knowing I didn't like the vacuum fuel pump, I wanted to go ahead and swap it to electric. I know other people had done it. And they did it with a kit from Rolling Wrench that uses a stock pump, and it uses a box, like a control box, to tell the pump what to do, because the Honda fuel pump, if you put power to it, it'll just basically kind of lock up. It needs a pulse to tell it what to do, and that's what most people use. I didn't want to go that route because that route costs like $250, $280, something like that. It's a lot, especially for a scooter that you have $500 in. That's a lot. That's almost doubling what I have in it. So I watched some videos and found a guy that runs a YouTube channel called Mini-Me that deals strictly with Honda Ruckus, or not Honda Ruckus, but with a maddog 50cc's and maddog 150cc clones. And in his stuff, he's done a lot. Like, I mean, he is a wealth of information for these things, and his channel is kind of funny because he makes fun of himself the whole way through. And he did an electric fuel pump. He did an electric fuel pump swap on the cheap and used a pump off of eBay. Or not eBay, but off of Amazon. He used one of these pumps. This one's made by Carpole. It's a universal micro electric fuel pump, blah, 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 blah. That has a, has a filter built into it. And this is essentially the same pump that you can go to the parts store and buy. This is the low pressure Edelbrock fuel pump that they sell on the shelf for like $60-$70. This one's on eBay for like $28. Well, I decided that, and this is what he used in the video, and I decided, like, well, if he can use that, I can get a way of doing it cheaper. Because, you know, that's just a click-clack pump. I bought one of the $8.99 little click-clack pumps because there was a very specific part of his video I didn't pay attention to. And that part was, this pump has a pressure shutoff built into it. This pump will shut off at like 3 psi and stop pumping fuel to the carburetor. This one, on the other hand, has no pressure shutoff and will flood your carburetor till it's dumping out the air intake. Yeah. So, needless to say, at that point, it don't run then either. It wouldn't run without a fuel pump, and it wouldn't run with it because, well, the air-fuel ratio was a little rich. And by a little rich, I mean it was all fuel and no air. So that created a problem. Although I will say I have learned something in the process of this. While I cannot get it to run consistently because of the fuel pump, I have gotten it to the point where I've got to hear it run. So, I know it runs. That plate's not bolted down. So I know that. Come on, shut the key off. There we go. So I know it runs. I know it should ride. The brakes all seem to work. Now it's just a matter of dealing with that problem, which I'm going to deal with by obviously just putting the new fuel pump on. It's not going to be that complicated. But this is where I'm going to divert from how he did it, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently myself, because I'm not really a fan of how he did it. And that's not to say he did a bad job. I just don't like his mounting location. Mini-Me in his video zip tied it right here to this bar, and that's all he did. Which, that's fine. That works for everybody. I mean, there's not a single problem with that. I just want it to look a little cleaner than that. So I'm going to pull the tank out, and I'm going to put it up here. Run the hose around, run the hose back out, run the hose up that side of the bike to the carburetor. I need to put all new fuel line on it anyway. I got new fuel filters and everything. So I might as well just go ahead and do it how I want and deal with it that way. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And then hopefully this thing will run and ride after that. We may try to ride it around the block, but it's kind of icy out, so I don't know if we're even going to do that. Just being able to like get it to consistently run for more than 3 minutes or more than a minute at a time would be great. So yeah, all right. Talking, let's do something. Oh yeah, and then in the box with all the fuel pumps the dude gave me with the thing was a NCY CDI box. And right now it's got like a rip-off of an NCY CDI box in it. So I figure we'll throw this in, see if it works, and if it does, cool. If it doesn't, we'll just throw that one back in and call it a day. All right, well, we've already ran into a problem with what we're going to call Plan A. That was, I wanted to stuff the fuel pump down there, and while it looks like there's a ton of room in there, by the time you take the tank out, try to set the pump down in there anywhere, you either can't get the lines to it, or it's holding the pump up, or holding the tank up, which I don't like either. So I think now we're going to go to Plan B, which is, hopefully, this could be a mistake. We're going to mount the pump to the bottom side of this plate that goes across here. So basically the pump's going to live in this opening. And by doing that, it does have to draw uphill a little bit, which these pumps don't necessarily always like. But it's also not going to be drawing through as big of a it's not going to be drawing through as big of a line. So it should maybe, hopefully, up the suction of it a little bit and alleviate that problem. That's the hope anyway. And I will say this exact problem is why a lot of people like using the little Honda pump, because the little Honda pump is like half of the size of this. You know, it's been a minute since I've recorded when I have to rig up something to have a phone mount to be able to record in the garage. All right, we're not going to do anything too crazy. We know this needs to mount here because this is, well, the only place it can mount. So we're going to drill a couple holes and just kind of make it work. Nothing too crazy. Just drill a pilot hole. We're going to basically use this to mark where the holes need to be and then drill them out without the pump in the way. Well, that turned into a whole thing. Told you that bit was dull. Should have just started with the step bit to start with. There we go. That's mounted. Like I said, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that being mounted where I'm mounting it isn't going to cause any issues, because sometimes these pumps don't like to pick up that well. But honestly, I'm really just banking on that with where I'm going to mount it, it won't be that big a deal. The biggest deal at this point is going to be running power to it and going from there. So, yeah. But I've already done that on the bike. I just don't know if the wire I ran is long enough. We're going to find that out. We may be adding some length to the wire. So, Apparently, while a guy was sweeping his garage floor earlier, so he had somewhere clean to work, even though it doesn't look like it's clean, may have accidentally swept up all the hardware for that mounting plate, which is okay, because it wasn't the right hardware anyway. It was like the wrong size, and it literally was like these little square nuts. It was not what was with the bike originally. I know it wasn't. There was no way, because I didn't match any of the rest of the hardware on the bike, and it was flathead. So yeah. Guess we're making a trip to the parts store, because I don't have any decent looking hardware, and I don't want to throw just junk on it, even though it's kind of junk. So we're going to the hardware store quick, grab some nuts and bolts, come back and get it done. Be back in a minute. Alright, back from the parts store with the nuts and bolts that we need. And I went and did the smart thing, started the lines on there, because they were cold, and I had to heat them up a little bit so I could get them to go on. That way, hopefully, I don't got to fight with them with gas going through anything to actually get them hooked to the carb and hooked to the tank. Even though I got a feeling I'm going to get gas on me hooking it to the tank. I don't think there's going to be a way around that. But hey, we got that far without getting soaked in gas. Now, we'll go ahead and get the plate mounted onto the bike. Get the ground done, because I'm going to have the ground is going to mount in one of these holes. So that'll make that a little easier. And then we'll get all the fuel lines hooked up and then figure out the power last. So I pretty much got the power figured out. It's just a matter of getting it to the pump itself. All right, we got all the fuel lines hooked up. New fuel filter in. The ground is hooked up. The only thing we have left to do is, well, pull the old pumping hose out here. God dang, that thing is in there. Come on, there we go. Out one, out the other. Loud noises. We're going to just kind of jump that across to the pump for the minute to make sure it works. Turn the key on and then see if we can start it. All right, wire is kind of just connected together. Pump comes on. Pump pulls fuel. Now let's see. Oh, whoa, we're leaking somewhere. Hang on. Where are we leaking out of here? Directly out of everything. Huh. Alright. Well, that sucks. Hang on, let me look at some stuff. So it's impressive how long this thing will stay here and run with the fuel that's in the fuel bowl. Given the fuel bowl was as full as it could be because it was running out the filter. But it's been sitting here running now for about 5 minutes. And it still hasn't ran out of fuel in the fuel bowl. So that's kind of impressive. Given it's getting like no RPM, but I've been revving it here and there. And it idles well. That fuel pump is supposed to only be able to push about 3 psi, and then it said it had a pressure sensor in it, or something, that where it would stop after that, and it didn't stop. So either the needle and seat in that carburetor can't handle it for whatever reason, or the fuel pump's not working right, or the fuel level was still so full from the time the other pump did it that it still had the needle and seat overpowered. Those are the only three things I can come up with. And maybe it had sunk the needle and seat after it had overfilled it so much. So now I'm just seeing if I get the fuel bowl emptied out, and I really don't feel like trying to fight to get to the train screw. Looks like maybe it's about to die. I can try filling it full again, and maybe it'll be fine. We'll find out here in a minute if this thing ever runs out of gas. Or this is where I found out that you only have to fill the carb one time on these things ever, and they run forever. I'm starting to get curious. So, for whatever reason, while using the same pump he was using in the video, my carb overflows. And I swore he was still doing it when his was... Because his bike now is like 90cc and has a fancy carb and everything on it. I swear he was using the same stock carb on a stock 50cc engine when he did it. And I'm still having problems. So, maybe it's the pump. Maybe it's something I'm doing wrong that I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll come. I'll be back to you guys. As soon as I figure this out, I'll be back. Alright, so I watched his video again, and I didn't do anything wrong. His test rig is that same pump, and the same carb. And just to show that it would work, he literally took the float bowl off, set it in a clear bowl, set the carburetor on top, it filled the bowl, pushed the float up, and shut the fuel off. And it didn't overflow it. It didn't go out anywhere. He was like talking while this was happening. It's getting cold in here again. And everything was fine. So I don't know what I've done wrong. I don't think I've done anything wrong. I think there's something physically wrong with the float in my carburetor. So, it's getting late tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for tonight. We're going to come out tomorrow morning, or probably tomorrow afternoon, pull the carburetor off, pull the float off, or pull the float bowl off, and see if we can figure out what's going on inside of there that's causing a problem. Because worst case scenario, somewhere back there in a box, I have a brand new carburetor for it too. Dude had a new carb and everything, thinking that maybe, because he said when he parked it, it had been like 6 months, and he knew when it had sat last time, he had issues with the fuel pump and the carburetor, and he had to like go through to clean the carb and hated doing it, and had to buy another fuel pump put on it. So this time he was just going to throw a whole new carb on and deal with the fuel pump after that. Even though he told me it would run when I bought it from him, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah. So tomorrow we're going to pull the carburetor off. Might just throw the other one I have on it. But this one seems like the tune's really good, so it's like, do I want to mess with the tune, or do I just want it to work? And I'm definitely kind of leaning more toward the I just want it to work. So we're going to pull that one apart tomorrow. All right, I'm rambling. It's cold. I'm going inside. So when I said I had a new carb, I was thinking I meant this one. I opened this box. There's a new carb, a new intake, a new spark plug, a new tiny fuel filter. So we might throw, maybe this was the original. Is that the original carb? Maybe? No, because it doesn't even look like it's been on anything. No, that's never really been on anything either. So, okay, I got carb options. Cool. We have a lot of options. That's tomorrow, though, not tonight. Tonight's cold. I'm going inside. Oh, hello, boys and girls. So, I came out here, and I've already started a little bit, and let me take you through that. So, here on the table, we've got 2 carbs. Don't mind the mess. I know this is not a good environment to be doing what I'm doing, but it is what it is. So here's the carburetor that was on it. I could not find anything wrong with it. I don't know why the floats are doing what they're doing. Doesn't really seem to be any reason for it. I could sit here and play with it and adjust it, throw it back together and put it on the bike, and it might work. I don't know. Versus this one, I hooked the fuel line up to it, got the pump on, it filled the fuel bowl, the pump stopped pumping fuel, nothing poured out of here, nothing poured out of the vent tube. So this carb was good to go. Now, the other thing I wanted to do, though, since I was like, I already knew I was going to open one of these up anyway, was I got jet kit. So these come with a 78 main jet stock. I'm not going to deal with the idle jet. I don't see a reason to. But in the 78 idle jet, or main jet, don't get me wrong, stock for what these bikes are meant to do, which is like 30, maybe 35 mile an hour if you're lucky, that 78 main jet's plenty. Because the intake's restricted, the exhaust is restricted, so that's enough. But this one, as you can tell by the weird hardware holding the bottom of the muffler together, and the fact it's got some other leaks coming out of the muffler, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. That muffler has been opened up. I shined a flashlight down into it, and there is no restrictor inside of that muffler. And since it's just running the pod filter, there's no restriction there either on this bike. Means that 78's probably got it running a little lean. In Mini-Me's video, I think he also calls himself Ghetto Wrench. Kind of like a spin on the whole rolling wrench thing, but he does everything like cheap. He played with the jets in the same video. Not the same video as that, but another video. And he went from the 78 jet, he went clear up to a 94, 95 jet. And he's pretty much seen gains all the way through. But he was relatively certain that if he would have had a 90 jet would have been the way to go. Because he went from the 78 to like an 86. And he wanted to go to a 90, but he didn't have a 90. The next closest thing he had was a 95. Well, I have a 90. So I threw a 90 main jet in that other carb. So we're going to throw that on and see how it does. I'm assuming I'm going to have to tune it a little bit. And another thing that tells me that that jet wasn't big enough, that 78 jet, was it was 4 turns out on the mixture screw. If you're that far out, something's not right. It should never be that far out. Your mixture screw, normally you're within 1 to 2 turns, and that should be like kind of your golden range. Because once you're out 4 turns, you're hardly doing a lot anymore with the screw. So I'm hoping stepping it to the 90 jet will allow me to leave just 1 to 2 turns out, instead of having to crank it out 4 like that one was. Given that being said, with it being 4 turns out, that one was running good. So I can't complain about that. But I've also never ridden the bike, so I don't know how well it's riding going down the road. So I do know that on Mini-Me's video, stock with nothing restricted, or stock with the restriction, we're going to call it, in the muffler and the restrictive stock air filter, he was topping out at like 32, 33 mile an hour. After de-restricting the muffler, changing from the full stock air intake to just that little pod filter, and then throwing in the 90 jet on the carburetor, he was touching 40 mile an hour, which realistically, not bad. I would like to see a little bit more out of it than that. But he was also at that point with no variator mods. I do know he struggled a little bit with his variator mods, but he discovered that what is very popular in the Honda Ruckuses, which is the Polani variators, and these, specifically in the 50cc at least, the Polani variator it's 115 millimeters around. It's 115 millimeter diameter. And that makes it to where if you get the bike to actually spin the belt all the way to the top, because it's a CVT transmission, the belt actually begins to hit the bottom of the starter, which in turn slows the bike down and shreds the belt. So he found that if you get a 89 millimeter, which is like the next size down, it's easy to find. It allows it to get to the top, the very top of that variator pulley without risking the belt. And he found like the proper size belt and everything. I'm not gonna lie, I've got those things on order. because I want to see if we can get this to go at least 45 with me on it. That'd be awesome. If I can get it to go 45 with me on it, it's good enough. Because realistically, I don't leave town. Not on these, because I mean, they don't really go fast enough to leave town. But me and a couple buddies are talking about time after the weather breaks and everything. There is a little car museum that's about an hour from here by car. We want to try to make like a little day adventure and take the scooters and ride the scooters over to it. So I don't know if I take like these two and this one, or those two and that one. So my one buddy really likes riding that one. But one way or another, or if we can get a fourth, maybe we'll take all four. I don't know. And knowing me, there will probably be a fifth scooter by then. No, it won't be that up there. That's parts from building that. But that's where we're at. Yeah, I'm rambling again. I'm getting really bad about rambling again. I'm sorry, guys. All right, let's get this carb on here and see what happens. All right, you can't see it because that plate had to set back down over top. But the fuel pump is in, or the fuel pump is hooked back up. The new carburetor is in. Let's turn the key on and see if this thing overflows. Oh, that's good. Because that is moving fuel. So let's see what happens if we hit the start button. Look at that. Nope, that didn't last long. So it definitely needs some tuning, but it does run. Doesn't seem to run terrible. So let's see if I can find a way to set you guys up and see if I can't tweak that carb a little bit. Alright, got it running again. It's running a little bit better. I don't like the way it wants to hold an idle higher when you rev it. Honestly, I got a feeling what I need to do is throw on one of the mini newer intake boots. That appears to be a used one. This appears to be a brand new one. I also thought maybe that was a brand new one that was in this box. That might have been the brand new one. Yeah, I think this is the brand new one. No, I really can't tell. That's kind of dusty. There was a brand new one in that box. Aha, there it is. The brand new one that's in the box with the better clamp. Should probably go ahead and throw that on. I probably will. I have a feeling I'm leaking up here around the base of the carb. So, but I will say for now, this is not going to be the last time you guys are going to see this bike. The fuel pump is working, which was the whole intent of this video, was to get that to work. I said maybe take it for a ride, but well, it's still, I think this has been the warmest it's been all week, and it's like 20 degrees out, and I mean, you see what that looks like. So while you get out onto a main road, it is better. I'm not trying to make myself sick getting that cold. So I mean, and as you guys can see, it's sitting here idling just fine. So, but I have the idle turned up a little higher than I'd like. Like I said, you can very clearly tell I got it running a little rich too. But it's going to with that 90 jet. So yeah. I think I'm going to call that a win, honestly, as good or as bad as it might be. It's good enough for now. But, you know, I'm happy with that. And I've went through and I've like system checked everything else. It does start a little hard, which is why I think that intake could be part of the problem. Because Mini-Me, Ghetto Wrench, whatever you want to call him, I've watched a lot of his videos, and pretty much they're starting hard and all that. It normally leads to an intake leak. And poor carb tuning too, obviously, is a factor. But I can turn the idle jet way farther in than I should be able to. And it still sat there and idle just fine, like there's nothing affecting it. So I'm curious if maybe there's something wrong with that carburetor too. It could be any number of things at this rate still. Oh, maybe it's gonna die. Yeah, I think it's gonna die. Oh, there she goes. But you can hear the fuel pump working. Yeah, and then see, then it gets hard to read. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. See how the RPMs kind of hang for a minute? The idle's fine. Nope. Yeah, now it's getting warm, so now I don't even want to hold an idle at the moment. And there, it just jumped. Now it's holding a 4,000 RPM idle. Before that brought the idle down. Huh. Kill it and see what happens when we restart it. Yeah, now it's just holding a 4,000 RPM idle and wanting to roll itself off of its stand. Alright, that's not good. Well, that's not going as planned at all. Well, on that note, I guess I did kind of accomplish what I set out to do, which was I wanted to get it to work with the electric fuel pump and get it to run for more than 30 seconds at a time, and it be with the fuel pump hooked up. And we've accomplished that. That works. Now it's going to be figure out what's going on with this carburetor, because it doesn't seem like it wants to take a tune. Fix the carburetor that's over on the shelf, or see if that brand new one in the box wants to work. That's going to be, I think, the next video. Get it running right. I've also got mounts coming in for the seat, because right now I can't even put the seat on. The mounts were broken. Well, actually, one of them was broken and one of them was gone completely. So we'll get that done. Get the box. Get this thing actually looking like a bike again. And hopefully by that point, maybe the roads have cleared up to where I can at least take it around the block. And we'll go from there. Well, we'll throw that NCY box in there at that point too. But the goal really is I want to get this a lot closer to being a working bike in the next video. This video was more or less to get me back in the groove of trying to film again. Like, I'm not even using my GoPro for this video. This is literally, I'm doing it on my phone because I'm not... Motivation's been a killer this winter, guys. I've not been... Last winter, I was able to work through the whole thing and just kind of bared through it. This year, I can't seem to get myself to do it. That being said, I am missing the weight difference between my phone and the GoPro. My phone's heavy. God, that sounds so terrible. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Promise the next video will be better. There will be more happen. You guys will be seeing that again. You'll probably be seeing more of all of them again. I would like to, since I didn't really do a build series on that like I should have, I think the goal is going to be we're going to do maybe a little bit of a build series or just a build video on this bike. And go from there. I would also like to find another Honda Metro and maybe gut another bike. Put a 110cc into a 50cc Metro. Maybe. I like the idea. I've seen a few Metros Navi swapped and they seemed really cool. I wouldn't mind that being the Navi swap and then taking everything from the back of that and throwing into another Metro. That'd make me happy because that setup works really well. But again, I'm rambling. Thank you guys for watching. The next video will be better. Hope you guys are happy I'm back. I know I've enjoyed being back out and filming again. I needed to do this. I kept telling myself I didn't want to anymore, and I was lying to myself the whole time. I really wanted to do this. So, see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.